losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Usually I say not a lot, but I feel like we got a lot going on. Like it's a busy show. There's a lot of MMA going on, so a lot of MMA is going on right now.
Yeah, a lot. It's kind of McGregor fight week. It's kind of crazy, man. You know, say what you want about Conor. Love him, hate him. I know there's a lot of people on both sides, but there is really nothing in MMA like a Conor McGregor fight week. And since he's gotten so big, these fight weeks are few and far between, especially with him fighting an actual absolute killer in a division. You know, he's not fighting a Floyd Mayweather. He's not fighting a 80-year-old Donald Cerrone. He's fighting Dustin Poirier. I'm pumped, but we do have some MMA to break down first. Let's jump into the card that happened this past Saturday, headlined by Max Holloway beating Calvin Kattar in honestly one of Max Holloway's most impressive performances to date, and that's saying a lot with the type of fighters Max Holloway's fought, right? I mean, but Saturday night was absolutely amazing, or I guess Saturday midday was amazing. Crazy, right?
Absolutely insane. We just did our 2020 year-end awards, and one of our categories was Beatdown of the Year. Like, do you see a better beatdown of the year? So like this feels like he already has it locked up in 2021 in terms of having just one of the most masterful ass whoopings I've seen since like TJ Dillashaw against Renan Barão 1 or 2. They were both pretty bad ass whoopings, but that's kind of the level that it reminded me of. And yeah, you bring up a good point. Was fighting against Calvin Kattar, and he did it playing essentially Kattar's game entirely on the feet, almost all at that medium range boxing. I mean, it doesn't get much better than Max Holloway slipping a 5-piece combination as he's looking away, shouting, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC." Pretty fucking incredible performance from Max Holloway. And I got some stats. As soon as we started talking, I remember John Anik put this on his Instagram, and I don't know where he got it from initially, but I'm going to read you some significant strikes stats from this fight here. The previous record for significant strikes landed in a UFC fight was 290. Max Holloway had 445. So
That's
nearly
insane.
Double. The previous record for most significant strike attempts in a UFC fight was 515. He's more than 200 past that at 744. And it just goes down. I'm not going to read all of them. But it's like fucking insane. Even total strikes landed, the previous record was 361. He's outpaced that by nearly 100 at 447. So like, I mean, it's kind of hard to put in perspective how good Max Holloway looked against a very good fighter in Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a Calvin Kattar at his peak, right? At his most dangerous, and he went in there and just completely blew the doors off of Calvin Kattar all fight. And Calvin Kattar was game, man. Calvin Kattar is tough as nails. You know, he fought valiantly, but it just was not enough in any point of that fight.
Yeah, he just never gave Kattar a second to breathe and think and set up his attack. And we talked about it a little bit last week that Kattar is a guy who kind of needs some time to find and see his openings, and he just never. You could just tell the look on their faces was even different. Holloway was dialed in and throwing strikes nonstop, and Kattar just looked perplexed. Like, give me 1 second here to just like read the opponent in front of me, and he never got that from Max Holloway.
You mentioned, Beatdown of the Year that might stand at the end of 2021. How about Round of the Year? That round 4 was amazing. And I know, like, a lot of people had called for the stoppage, and I could have seen it being stopped. But Calvin Kattar for as much of an ass whooping as he was taking, he landed some monstrous shots in that round. Again, like Max just doesn't flinch. Like there, that one combo he had, I forget what round it was. It was like literally the exact same combo that Calvin Kattar broke Ricardo Lamas' jaw with, and it literally just does not phase Max Holloway. He barely even takes a step back. And dude, my takeaway after that fight was that is the best featherweight in the world. I know that he's lost to Alexander Volkanovski twice, but dude, the eye test is there. Everything is there. That is the best featherweight in the world. I know he's lost twice. I'm still saying it.
Well, dude, you and I think the majority of the viewers of the second Volkanovski fight think Max Holloway won.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's our opinion does not matter is the bottom line. But I don't think it's out of line to say we just saw the best featherweight in the world. He just totally flummoxed Kattar, man. It's absolutely crazy. And I think Kattar, as game as he was, just didn't by the fourth round, he was way too beat up to throw anything that's going to hurt Max Holloway at that point. So yeah, I mean, I can't sing Holloway's praises enough. Even just little things, like I was kind of rewatching a lot of the sequences this morning, and little things like Holloway approaching every combination by stepping a little bit to his left, so he's lining up Kattar with his right hand. Those right elbows, for example, that was basically set up. Every time Holloway would approach with a combination, he's just shifting a little bit to his left, which brings Kattar into his powerful right hand or right elbow. Man, I mean, we could probably do a whole freaking podcast on just that fight. We're not going to, but man, what a fight.
And, you got to give credit where credit's due, right? We're gushing on Max Holloway, but in two fights, Max could not get, that sort of offense going against Alexander Volkanovski. So Volkanovski deserves a lot of praise and a lot of credit, but at this point, you have to do Max Holloway versus the winner of Volkanovski Ortega, right? Obviously, if Ortega wins, that's a bit of a fresher fight. Max beat up. Honestly, Max did pretty much the same that he did to Calvin Kattar against Brian Ortega. But now you have Brian Ortega 2.0. But if it's Volkanovski, he deserves that fight. There's nobody else. Again, like, who knows what the hell Zabit and Yair Rodriguez are doing? They don't seem like they want to fight, right? It's Max Holloway, dude. It is Max Holloway, no matter who wins.
And I think it's important that he won so dominantly here, because before this fight, I was like, I don't know if I want to see him fight Volkanovski a third time. But now I'm totally with you. After seeing what he's capable of right now, I'm sold on it.
Yeah, the dude is unreal. Again, we could probably do a whole podcast about that, but there is so much to get to. Anything else in that fight or Max Holloway before we move on?
No, man. I mean, I think I said all that I can right now.
Yeah, same. I would assume he's going to have a big 2021, and again, he's still only 29 years old, still on the right side of 30, as John Anik would say. Impressive stuff, man. Co-main event. Honestly, a fun fight. It ended about as good as you could have hoped, right? Like, they were in a fun competitive fight. Neither guy got destroyed. Carlos Khan defeats Matt Brown via unanimous decision. I thought it was clear cut. I know some people were arguing about the 30-27. I could have given that first round to Carlos Condit, right? He got taken down, but all the strikes on the mat were all Carlos Condit. He was threatening submissions. Matt Brown kind of slowed down, but man, Carlos Condit now 2 wins in a row. Looked really good in this fight. His contract with the UFC has come to an end. What are your thoughts on the fight and what's next for both these guys?
On the fight, I was pleasantly surprised. I think in my head, I thought that best case scenario would have been kind of a slobber knocker, all out brawl, but I kind of like what we got more, which was, we saw all aspects of MMA, even Condit and Brown kind of showing off their wrestling chops, their grappling chops. And yeah, I was happy. I thought watching it live, I thought it was pretty clear cut rounds. 2 and 3 went to Condit. And I'm also with you that even though Condit was on his back for much of round 1, he was the one doing the vast majority of the attacking. As far as for what's next, I mean, I'm still like kind of pulling for both these guys to retire. Obviously that didn't happen. I mean, Condit made it seem like he for sure wants to like keep going, keep fighting. And he even, I can't remember if it was he or the UFC broadcast team that kind of made it seem like they want to put him back in there with like top 10 competition. I'm not so sure about that,
No.
that losing streak for sure was against high level guys for the most part. Let me pull up his record here. I don't know why I don't have it in front of me right now, but he is still like very, very much on the tail end of his career. And like, I don't know. I'd like to see him in other fights similar to this, but I don't know how many more options there are at 170. And I think he's better than fighting somebody like a Mickey Gall or something like that for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So some other aging veteran, I would hope at 170. I mean, he could always try to get that Tyron Woodley fight back. That kind of ended in a weird way back in 2014. I wouldn't hate that fight right now.
I mean, do you think there's any chance he jumps ship and goes to like a Bellator or a PFL to end his career?
For sure.
Right.
He is, I strongly associate him with the UFC, and he's always kind of been a bit of a company man, but he also seems like a smart guy, and if he can make a better payday at Bellator, then go for it. Yeah,
I mean, his stock is as high as it's been in years. 2 wins in a row, win over a veteran like Matt Brown. Yeah. Props to both those guys, man. Don't know what's next for Matt Brown, but we shall see. We called this last week, man. We're big Ponzinibbio guys, but we said if there was a line to look at for a dog on this card, it was probably Li Jingliang. I believe he was like close to like a plus 300 underdog in this fight.
That sounds right, yeah.
Dude, he here's the thing, man. Ponzinibbio was off for like 2 years, and it looked like he was off for 2 years. The timing looked a little bit off, and you saw it. He got a little bit reckless in an exchange, and Li Jingliang hit him right in the button and put his lights out. Big win for Li Jingliang, and tough one for Ponzinibbio coming back, because it really, with the layoff and now the knockout loss, it's taken pretty much all the wind out of his sails.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where I was like, man, MMA is such an unforgiving sport, because here's this guy who had put together this really, really good streak, and then yeah, you can't blame him for looking a bit out of sorts. I think the ring rust was there, and it was real. And like we said, Li Jingliang is a guy who's going to capitalize on that if you're slow coming out the gate, for sure. And even the Leech looked pretty measured from the jump. I mean, I don't want to say the only reason he won this fight was because of Ponzinibbio's ring rust. I thought Jingliang looked pretty measured. And yeah, he did what he needed to do, like lined up that punch pretty fucking perfectly.
He did. Another perfect shot. Alessio Di Chirico knocks out Joaquin Buckley, man. I saw some. I don't have the tweet. I want to say it was maybe Caposa, and he put it perfectly. He's like, Joaquin Buckley goes from having the knockout of the year, unanimous of 2020, into getting highlight reel finished, months later in 2021. It's like live by the sword, die by the sword. But man, that knockout was beautiful. Took a lot of wind out of Buckley's sails himself. And then the main card opened with Punahele Soriano getting a big TKO too. This was honestly a really, really fun and action-packed main card.
Yeah, and especially look at the prelims. It was all unanimous decisions, right? Or one split, 2 splits. And then Punahele Soriano gets the first UFC knockout of 2021. I'm pretty high on him. That guy is an absolute stud, like powerhouse athlete. I want to say he also played football, but I know he has like a Division II or Division III wrestling background, so he can handle himself on the mat, and clearly has just like oodles of power.
Yeah, that was a big win for him. Anybody else on the undercard you want to shout out?
No, I mean, it was a slow start. It was like kind of a frustrating start to 2021 watching, these early fights all go to decision.
Yeah. It was good too. It was good to see this card on ABC. I thought they
with a crowd, with a little bit of a crowd.
That is true. Yeah, they popped for some fighters. Dude, they were chanting for Max Holloway, like loudly chanting for Max Holloway. I mean, again, like we talked about it kind of last week. Like Max Holloway is that dude where he's like, not the star, the level of like Conor McGregor or Habib or something, but he's probably that next tier down where he resonates with the fans very much.
He's certainly one of those guys that you might not recognize his name, but if you are a casual fan and you happen to see a Max Holloway fight, you're probably going to be like, the next time you hear a Max Holloway fight advertised, you're more likely to watch it. He's a guy who's like has built his fan base like strictly on the basis of his fighting, and he's built his brand to a degree, but he's just a guy who people are drawn to watch, I think.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He's just a fighter. through and through, right? Like
he's a showman
have to talk
too.
shit. Like, hey, he's a showman. He's tough as nails. He literally Max Holloway is the whole package, man.
For sure.
All right. We do have a card on Wednesday morning. Yes, that's right. Wednesday morning. Coffee and MMA. The prelim card starts at 9 a.m. on ESPN. The main card starts at 12 p.m. noon on ESPN. It is headlined by Michael Chiesa taking on Neil Magny. I absolutely love this fight. And this fight is for me, it's been one of the hardest fights to really lean either way, right? I think they're both matched up very well. And again, I can lean either way. I can see Chiesa having an advantage in certain spots, but then again, like, I think Neil Magny is one of the most criminally underrated fighters in the sport today. He's always very underrated, and I don't know, man. I think he's one big win, possibly this one, away from finally getting that jump up that he deserves. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, beat the Leech, Anthony Rocco Martin, and then Robbie Lawler, all solid wins. Just a stud, man, a stud.
Yeah, Magny is a guy who, for probably both the way he fights and his personality, has not really maybe gotten the respect that he deserves. He's not, really a fan favorite. He's kind of a very vanilla type of guy, but yeah, like you said, he's been around and at this high level for such a long time. This is a hard fight to predict here. I think a lot of Magny fights are hard to predict because he doesn't have one clear skill set where you can say, oh, Magny has the advantage in X. He's a good wrestler. He works well on his feet behind his jab. He has just incredible length for the division. I lean towards Magny in this matchup with Chiesa, just because I feel like for Michael Chiesa to have a clear-cut advantage and for me to pick him, I need to believe that he has like a definite grappling advantage. And I think he probably has the better like back-taking game and maybe like rear naked choke or guillotine game compared to Magny, like finishing ability on the mat. But I think overall MMA grappling, and that includes the clinch, and like the wrestling aspect of it, I think he's pretty even with Magny. Couple that with the fact that Magny is for sure gonna like fight behind his jab well and try to keep Chiesa off of him. And I think that's something Magny can do for 5 rounds. He has a super high fight IQ. So I favor Magny here ever so slightly, but Chiesa always kind of has that like home run hit, so to speak, with his back taking game.
Yeah, dude, Magny's like one of those guys that's like unflappable, right? Like
unflappable. That's a perfect
unflappable. Like he just does not panic. He's always super well prepared. You mentioned his fight IQ. He's got great cardio, and he's one of those guys that is, you can get him to the mat, but holding Neil Magny down and really creating any offense off of it is very, very difficult. And I think that's where Michael Chiesa is going to struggle. Like I do think he might be able to take Neil Magny down, but keeping him down and having the cardio to keep wrestling. And, I give Magny the advantage on the feet. I think he stays long. He works well behind his jab. He's got a good 1-2. I just really think it's going to be a tough matchup for Michael Chiesa. And again, Chiesa's looked very good at 170. But, 2 of those 3 wins are a little bit fool's gold, right? He faced Carlos Condit in the midst of that losing streak. He faced Diego Sanchez, 2019, Diego Sanchez. The Rafael dos Anjos win, very impressive, but I just think Magny is more prepared for this. I lean Magny as well. I think I don't really see a finish here, but I think Magny just grinds out a decision in typical Neil Magny fashion.
Yeah, I'm with all that. I also think it's worth noting that Chiesa, even though he was a former lightweight, I think as a welterweight, his size is typically an advantage because he's 6'1" and thick. But Neil Magny is like one of the few guys who's going to have just an overall size advantage over Chiesa. And I think anytime you have a guy who's used to having the size advantage gets that taken away from him, he's really going to struggle here. Just being not the longer, lankier fighter. And I think Magny has 2 inches on him in height. I don't know about their reach.
Damn, Neil Magny's only 33 years old too.
He's been in the UFC for a hot second. He was on,
yeah.
Was he on the Ultimate Fighter with like Brock? I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think that was the season he was on with like Brock and JDS.
Yeah, it's Carwin versus Nelson.
Okay. Even a
Again, like that
weirder
was so far after like
heavyweight
that
fight.
ship had already sailed for me.
Yeah.
Where I've seen clips of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, this should be a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah, no, I'm on the Magny train a little bit, and I think if he can win here, he'll be maybe cracking that top 5 of the division. I don't know. He'll be cracking the top 5 opponents. Rankings wise,
Thompson.
this won't help him a ton. A Thompson fight would be fucking
Honestly, for
phenomenal.
either of these guys, a Thompson fight makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, Michael Chiesa could win a Stephen Thompson fight with his skill set. I'm less confident in Neil Magny.
I almost want to go the other way. I feel
I mean,
like
Thompson looked so fucking good in
he
his
looked
last
so
fight.
good. I could see him just piecing Chiesa up and keeping it off the feet. But again, that's another topic for another day. Let's get through this weekend.
Yeah.
Or I should say this week. The rest of the main card is pretty solid. Co-main event looks like it's Warley Alves versus Munir Lazez, who is solid. I really like the Lerone Murphy Douglas Silva De Andrade fight. Our girl Roxanne Modafferi is on the main card. A couple really nice fights.
Dude, when are they going to stop putting Roxanne Modafferi in fights where she's like a huge underdog? I feel like she is a plus 270 underdog to Viviane Araujo, who is super good, but this feels just like a prime Roxy upset fight. Like some young upstart Brazilian with like 6-pack abs and fucking shoulder muscles. Roxy's gonna like stiffly jab her in the face and like double leg her.
Get some takedowns, have top.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
When are they gonna learn?
she keeps raking in the money, man. They are not learning. She is great as an underdog.
Yeah, for sure.
I did the prelim primer this week too. There's a couple nice fights on the prelim card. The Suma Durje is fighting. He is a monster at flyweight. Umar Nurmagomedov, Khabib's cousin, taking on Sergey Morozov is a very good fight. Mike Davis, Mason Jones is a really good fight as well.
Yeah, Mike Davis is a guy that I remember being pretty impressed with. I guess he's only lost to Gilbert Burns in the UFC.
And Mason Jones is a double champ from Cage Warriors making his debut.
Really, that is a very good fight. Yeah,
both very good boxers with a lot of power too. It should be a good one.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to break down this UFC 257 card. Obviously, it is on pay-per-view, taking place this coming Saturday. One thing we did not talk about that we could talk briefly before we actually break down the main event and the card is the big announcement that happened on Saturday. The hyped announcement with Dana White and Khabib. Come on, man. I get like you want to get eyes because Khabib brings eyes and you want people watching the show, but like basically your big announcement was maybe he'll fight again. And I feel like it was like Dana White for 2 hours, just like, please, 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 please come back. And he's like, yeah, maybe if someone impresses me, but probably not. And Dana White's like, he's coming back. He's probably coming back. It's impressive. It's like, come on, dude. Really? He did say that Charles Oliveira impressed him, and that's a fight I would love to see. I think that's one of the most interesting matchups for Khabib right now. But, I mean, do you have any what did you think about the announcement?
I mean, I love unintentional comedy, and I think it's fucking hilarious that Dana White put out an Instagram video or a tweet or whatever of him like going behind closed doors with Khabib Nurmagomedov, only to come out on fucking ABC National Network TV like a few hours later and be like, "We had a talk. He doesn't know. He's impressed with some guys." Like no announcement whatsoever. It doesn't change my position at all that I still think he's probably going to stay retired. I think maybe the UFC said, "Hey, do you want some tickets to these Fight Island shows? It'll be fun." And he went, and he still 100% plans on staying retired.
Yeah, I think so too. When at that point, it's like, why not just make, I don't think he's going to care if you strip him, right? And if he is blown away by Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Charles Oliveira, like he can come back and fight, right? Just even put an interim title on the line. I feel like this is the one case where you only shut on interim titles. But if you want an interim title, like this is the case, right? You have two of the best lightweights in the world. The lightweight champion is in limbo right now. Like put an interim title on the line, or just strip Khabib and put the damn title on the line. Like maybe it's like a little mini tournament. I have no idea, but it's just very weird.
Well, dude, like 2 years ago, I felt like interim belts were just they were giving him out, like Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson fighting for him and stuff.
Everybody was fighting for him.
And now this is the one instance where you have a champion who's literally said, I'm retired. And they're like, refuse to do anything with that belt or make this an interim fight. It's weird.
It is very weird. And again, like, I still find it extremely difficult. And again, like, who knows what's going to happen. But, like, if Conor McGregor wins, whether it's a knockdown, drag him out 5-round war, or he starches Dustin Poirier in 60 seconds, like, I still have a hard time believing that Khabib is going to fight that man. Like, I really, like, Khabib is just not, like, a money guy, right? Like, he means what he says. He's a family man. He's a religious man. And that's why everything blew over in that fight. And I just don't think he respects Conor enough to fight him. So it's like, I get, like, that's the fight you want to see, but I still don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. And I don't know anything that Conor McGregor could do to entice Khabib to come out of retirement.
So,
go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Ben. Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, Charles Oliveira. I think for Khabib to fight any of these guys, I think Conor McGregor, as crazy as it sounds, is literally at the bottom of the totem pole. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I just think that is the one guy, like, he is not going to fight out of that little crop, just based on just his morals and everything with his family.
Yeah, kind of on principle alone. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, I don't know what the typical McGregor route would be to have some really good trash talk lined up, some really good insults for Khabib. The issue is, as I think if he goes after Khabib like that, Khabib's going to take, I don't want to say the higher road because he fucking attacked him, you know, all that shit. But I think Khabib is not going to let McGregor kind of dictate. He's not going to let himself be like, oh, this guy called me names, I have to fight him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I put McGregor at the absolute bottom of that list. I might think of guys like maybe Dan Hooker. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he beat him already, I think Poirier is probably pretty low on that list as well because he beat him already. Oliveira is like a wet dream fight, but that seems like
that is
super unlikely.
We shall see. Let's talk about this fight, man. Again, it's kind of McGregor fight week. It's kind of crazy, and I do give him credit, man. You know, this, and again, there's all the noise outside the UFC, like he's gonna fight Manny Pacquiao next and whatever. Like, I just hope that if Conor does, like, this is the guy, right? Like, Conor getting back in here, like, this is the guy that you should have fight, right? Like, Dustin Poirier is a dog. He is literally one of the best lightweights in the world. This is who you should be fighting, not a fucking Floyd Mayweather or a Manny Pacquiao. This is the guy, right? And I hope if Conor wins, right, I hope he stays. But if Conor loses, I think it brings like everything kind of to like a head, right? Like, almost, we've seen Conor lose before, right? And we've seen him go through his shit out of the octagon, and we've seen him do all these crazy things. But I feel like, and we talked about this a lot, right? Like, I feel like fans were starting to sour on Conor, where it was like, we're sick of it. Like, you know what? Either fight or don't fight, but we don't give a fuck anymore. And now you're fighting again. But I feel like a loss here would be extremely damaging to Conor McGregor and his brand. Not saying, like, people aren't going to tune in when he fights, but a loss here to Dustin Poirier, I think it could, I don't want to say spell the end of Conor McGregor because that's nowhere near true, but I think it could really put his brand in danger.
It would hurt his mystique. I 100% agree with that. And he was a guy, if you know, back in 2016, for example, when he lost to Nate Diaz, he was so, his stardom was at like an absolute peak then, that the loss basically didn't hurt him at all in terms of like his public image. Whereas now, like you just said, like, he's had these kind of out of the cage scandals, the Floyd Mayweather thing, the fight with Floyd Mayweather. You know, I think now a loss is much more damaging to his career and his public image than it was a few years ago, where he was just, you know, the fandom was at an all-time high, that it didn't really matter if he lost. He was still going to be a megastar. Whereas now, he still has a lot of that mystique. Like, if you talk to very casual MMA fans, like people that really only ever watch Conor McGregor fights, and you ask them, what do you know? What do you think about this Dustin Poirier fight coming up? They think, oh, of course he's just going to starch Poirier. Like, I know that he beat him X amount of years ago. For sure he's going to run through Poirier. Right. And you bring up a good point that I think if he loses here, a lot of that kind of like people that don't know about MMA but no Conor McGregor, still think he is just like God's gift to fighting, right?
Yes.
And yeah, there is a lot on the line here. I think it would have been worse had he lost to Donald Cerrone last year, but
yeah, that would have been catastrophic.
A loss here really, people know that it's against an elite lightweight, but they also, more and more people are going to eventually kind of tune out when they no longer think that he's something special.
This fight, I think Conor answered a lot of questions for himself in that second Nate Diaz fight, where he was able to dig deep and really battle back. And I think that is the problem that Dustin Poirier possesses. Now, could I see Conor McGregor going out there and absolutely blitzing Dustin Poirier like he did in the first fight? Absolutely. But these guys are just so much different from that first fight. Again, Dustin Poirier is up at 155 now, and Dustin Poirier is an absolute dog, right? Like, that guy brings the fight to you. He is not like, look at some of the wars that Dustin Poirier's been in, man. He, toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje, with Eddie Alvarez. That Dan Hooker fight was insane, man. I feel like Conor answered a lot of questions in that Diaz fight, but again, like, I still kind of go back, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, if Conor can't get him out of there, like, is Conor built for a Dustin Poirier fight? Like, can he really dig deep and go toe-to-toe with this man? Because Dustin Poirier is, again, he's a dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's two sides to this fight when I think about how it might play out. And one side is exactly that after maybe the third or fourth round, for sure, Conor McGregor slows down. Like, that's who he is. And I do think the second Nate Diaz fight was maybe the best performance of his career, because he like purposely had to kind of take his foot off the gas pedal. And you could hear, if you go back and watch that fight, his coach is like imploring him to basically like slow down so he doesn't gas himself out. So he's aware of that. His corner is aware of that, but that's still an issue that McGregor has, is like, if the guy doesn't go away, he tends to fade. But I think the flip side of that coin is he is still so offensively potent and dangerous early on. And Poirier is going to be there. Poirier will be in front of him. And I'm not convinced that Poirier he's an absolute dog. I agree with you there that like he will not give you anything free. But at this point in his career, I'm not sold that Poirier has like the durability to withstand that initial Conor McGregor onslaught. Not to mention, I think McGregor is the better counter puncher for sure, the better overall counter striker. And I think he's going to find a fair amount of success against the slower Poirier, especially early.
The timing looked there against Donald Cerrone, right? But again, like, take that fight for what it's worth. Dustin Poirier is a different animal than 2020 Donald Cerrone. It's tough, man. I kind of bought into the Mystic Mac thing, especially after the Jose Aldo fight. I said that I would never pick against them again. And there was two instances I obviously picked against them, right? Like, Nate Diaz is my dude. Like, I'm never not going to pick against Nate Diaz. And obviously the Floyd Mayweather fight, right? Like, Floyd, Conor could have had Antonio Margarito's gloves from the Miguel Cotto fight, and he could have slipped Floyd Mayweather some of that Deontay Wilder spiked water, and he still was going to lose that fight. But other than that, like, I buy into the Mystic Mac, man, and I think I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid here. I still think there's something there. He seems like he has that swagger back again, and I kind of like this Conor. This Conor is not like the brash, like, when Conor first came up, he was very brash, but in the same sense, he was still like very calculated, right? And then he went through that phase where he was just a wild man, and we saw the results against Khabib. And now he's kind of like this respectful, but calculated guy, and I buy into it. And I think Conor gets it done here again, man, and I think he puts him away. And dude, I'd love to, like, at some point just have a conversation with like a sports psychologist, right? Because even Conor said it. Like, Conor's like, he's already beaten, right? Like, I already beat him once. He can't beat me again. And Conor kind of proved that wrong with the Nate Diaz fight, right? But shit like that really interests me. I'm going Conor, man. I think he stops Dustin Poirier again in this fight. I would not be whatsoever surprised though if Dustin Poirier does gut it out and takes him to deep water.
Yeah, I think that this is a bit closer fight than many like casual fans kind of think. Like I said, there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, of course, McGregor easily wins this fight. There's no way he loses. For sure, Poirier represents some big problems with his power. And especially like if it gets to the 4th or 5th round, I think Poirier can really become an issue for McGregor. That said, I like McGregor's countering ability here, and I like the fact that he's going to be hyper offensive really early, and I think he's gonna tag Poirier early and get him out of there, I think, in the 2nd round. And I also think it's worth noting, despite this kind of like a year-long layoff for McGregor, he's no stranger to that, right? Like you look back,
yeah, that is true. Good point.
Between the Eddie Alvarez fight and the Khabib fight, he had the Floyd fight, but that's a totally different fucking sport. And I think he didn't look ring rusty against Khabib at all. Some of his best work was in the early parts of that fight. So yeah, I think McGregor will be on. He's kind of shown that that ring rust is not something that totally affects him. And yeah, I think he gets Poirier out of there. Part of me is like we used to kind of think of Poirier as a guy that can't perform in the biggest fights, and I'm not sure if that's still the case.
It's not a case, man.
It'll just be McGregor being too good, I think, here, if anything.
I mean, he got knocked out by Michael Johnson. I feel like we were just like, man, he just can't perform, and he completely destroyed that, right? He's only lost other than that was Khabib, and yeah, nobody's beating Khabib, right? And he just showed up against Eddie Alvarez, Justin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker. He's had these moments, he's had these spots. I just I don't know if it's Conor has his number or it's just a good matchup, but
it's also like, man, even in winning, Poirier had really hard fights against Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, and Justin Gaethje. Even Anthony Pettis going back to 2017, even that was like a war. And at some point, you just got to assume his durability is really going to be suffering.
Can he hurt? Do you think he could hurt Conor?
I do think Poirier can hurt McGregor because he clearly has like big power for lightweight. The issue is speed, and I don't think Poirier can land cleanly enough on McGregor. At least not early. Later, if McGregor does slow down, for sure Poirier can, I think has the ability. Like if it gets to the 4th or 5th round, a Poirier TKO wouldn't really shock me at that point. But it's going to be early on where it's problematic.
It's going to be very interesting if it does go 3, 4 into 5. Now, I think the disrespect, even on the UFC's part, towards Poirier is crazy, right? It's like, again, I know it's Conor McGregor, but man, it's like this man is not getting any sort of rub. You're talking about Khabib versus Conor and Conor this, Conor that. Conor's looked the best he's ever looked. I get it, but dude, Dustin Poirier is a dog, man. He thrives being the underdog. Don't count this man out.
Yeah, for sure. No, this is a very good fight, and take out everything that Conor McGregor stands for or whatever you associate with his trash talking. Inside the cage, the man is always putting on exciting fights, straight up exciting fights.
And if you look at the title picture, right, I think Conor McGregor winning, if Dustin Poirier wins, he might call somebody out. He might call Khabib out. Who knows? But it's not going to mean as much. I think if Conor McGregor wins, I think his call out could mean the world to somebody, right? And again, I feel like he's measured, and I feel like he's trying to play chess with the Khabib, right? So I don't think he's going to go out there and get on the mic and say, although he did say this in his Ariel Helwani interview, I don't think he's going to call Khabib scared and a coward and this and that. To me, personally, I don't even think he's going to acknowledge Khabib. And you know what? Again, I don't think he's calling out Charles Oliveira. I think Justin Gaethje is in play. And I think the big guy that is going to be in play, and again, he has to perform, and I told my friend this the other day, Michael Chandler. If Michael Chandler wins his fight against Dan Hooker, and he wins it impressively, Conor could look at a guy like Michael Chandler and lick his chops and say, you know what? That's the guy I want to fight for the title. And again, if Khabib's out of the picture, whoever Conor calls, that's probably going to be the fight.
Yeah. I'm with all that. I do think he's gonna I don't want to say take the higher ground, but he kind of does this thing where he acts like he's the one who is giving you a favor by mentioning your name, right? Yep. So I'm with that. I think he for sure wants the Khabib fight because that's huge money for him, but I don't think he's going to go out there and ask for it. I could see him saying something like, this encounter, ended with you attacking me. I could see him alluding to the brawl that happened post, what was it, UFC 221 or so, I can't remember the number.
223 maybe, something like that.
That sounds right. I could see him kind of alluding to that, but I would be shocked if he straight up asks for a fight, because that's not what Conor McGregor does, is ask for fights. Like if Chandler, first of all, going back further, I mean, I think if Chandler wins, he's going to call out Conor McGregor just because that's the type of guy he is. He's not, yeah. So if he makes a statement there, you know, McGregor seems like the type of guy who's calculated enough to like even like be watching and paying attention to the fight before him, knowing, oh, I need to know who wins this fight. I'm down with a Chandler call out. I could totally see that. Do you think he's interested in a Nate Diaz fight?
Of course he is. That's the second biggest fight out there.
But do you think he'd ask for it? Like, do you think he'd even bring it up, or is he going to make Nate kind of beg for it, assuming Nate gets a win? And
the thing is, you know, him and Nate have been playing this game for years now. They don't really, you know, obviously Nate, you know, will throw his shots out on Twitter and whatnot. You know, he called Khabib a bitch the other day. He throws jabs at Conor, but no, I don't think he's going to go and call Nate out. And especially like, you know, I don't know if he's been told who Nate is going to fight, right? But I'm sure he knows that Nate is going to probably be taking a big fight at lightweight. I don't think he calls out Nate. I think he either calls everybody fools or whatever, or I think he mentions Michael Chandler, and that's it. If I had to guess, and assuming that's Michael Chandler wins. But let's talk about that fight.
Yeah.
Big one, man. Again, like there was a bunch of different options you could go for Michael Chandler. You know, you could have went the Tony Ferguson route, the Justin Gaethje route, but dude, this is a good one, man. Dan Hooker is an all action guy, and he's fighting another all action guy, man. If you have not seen Michael Chandler fight, do yourself a favor and go watch this man fight. The dude is a monster. He is a great wrestler with a ton of athleticism that does not use his wrestling nearly enough. He goes out there and bangs, and dude, Dan Hooker is a guy that is going to meet him in the middle. Dan Hooker's going to have a pretty sizable advantage, right? At least height-wise. Dan Hooker's 6 foot. What is Michael Chandler, like 5'8",
I think.
5'8". Yeah, they got him at 5'8", right? So he's going to have a pretty big size and reach advantage. But again, this is a fight where I can see Michael Chandler like actually using his wrestling and you know, doing some body work, taking him down, and really tiring out Dan Hooker. And you know, Michael Chandler is one of those guys where I've usually with my guys, I am not afraid to make bold picks, and I've looked very dumb in the past. Ben Askren. Still, though, if Masvidal didn't land that knee, Ben Askren would have won that fight. But Michael Chandler's another one, man. I'm going Chandler here. I think Chandler is prepared for this. I think he's deserved the shot for a long time. Again, I see him mixing in some wrestling. And again, he might get hit, taste a little bit of his own blood, bite down and want to go ham. But I think if he can start to tire Dan Hooker out, take him down a bit, and then work into his striking, it's going to really favor him. But I'm going Chandler. And again, another thing, too, I think the 3-round fight very much favors Chandler.
100% agree with that. I'm going Chandler as well. I think Hooker has better finishing abilities. Like I wouldn't be if Hooker wins, it might kind of look like what Pitbull did to Chandler, which is like catch him with a punch as he's moving in, essentially. I also think it's worth noting that Michael Chandler's 5'8" foot chin is like perfectly lined up for a Dan Hooker knee, which is one of his favorite weapons. I just as much as I trust Dan Hooker's finishing abilities, again, I think it's going to be he's going to be at a pretty big speed disadvantage to Michael Chandler, who is just one of the most explosive guys you're going to see in the entire sport, much less at lightweight. I think Chandler is going to, especially early, and you bring up another good point, the fact that this is 3 rounds for sure favors Chandler, because I think rounds 4 and 5, Chandler loses a ton of that explosivity. But in general, I see Chandler like being way too fast for Hooker, moving inside of Hooker's range to either land punches or get on Hooker's hips. And I think later in his career, we've seen more of Michael Chandler taking the fight to the mat, like I'm trying to think, like the Brent Primus rematch, for example. And I think that was a bit of Michael Chandler trying to be really safe because he didn't want to lose to Brent Primus again. But I think he's not afraid at 34 years old to lean on his wrestling a little bit more, which I for sure think will be there against Hooker, who stands really tall and is just really long. But I do think it's a great test for Chandler straight out the gate to see exactly where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, this skyrockets him to the top of the division if he does win.
Oh, for sure. Because Hooker is a guy who is like he's the elite kind of test for you. You know, if you can beat him, you're in that top 5 for sure. But if you can't, you know, you're maybe 5 to 10. So
Yeah.
I like Chandler here. I'm looking at the odds, and I'm actually kind of surprised to see that it's basically a pickup, but Hooker is a very, very small favorite. And I think that's probably just has to do with name recognition at this point.
Another thing too, like Michael Chandler is one of those guys where like you can hurt him. He's like an Eddie Alvarez, right? Like you can hurt him, but to put Michael Chandler away, it takes a special type of finishing skills. And again, I hope the referee, whoever's refereeing the fight, like realizes that, because I wouldn't be surprised if Chandler gets dropped and dropped early. But again, getting Chandler out of there is another ball game. And even if Chandler gets dropped, it might even turn into like a scramble where he ends up on top, and now he's starting to bank time and bank damage and sap Dan Hooker's energy. But man, this is going to be a very, very good fight.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll definitely be one of those, just because Chandler we have thought about in the UFC or against these level of guys for so long, that it'll definitely be kind of a bit of chills, like, you know, when he's in there, the first time you see him in those UFC shorts or whatever, it's going to be a little weird, but certainly exciting.
Absolutely. Dude, honestly, looking down at the rest of this card, like, I feel like the prelim fights are almost better than the main card fights. Like, this, like, Nasrat Hakparat versus Arman Sarukian is fucking a banger of a fight.
Yeah.
Juliana Pena, Sarah McMahon's a good fight. You know, Movsar Evelev. If you guys haven't seen him, that's the dude to watch, taking on Nick Lentz. You know, I don't want to totally shut out the rest of the main card. You have Jessica Ai taking on Joanne Calderwood, Matt Favola taking on Ottoman Azaltar, and Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas is a good fight. That deserves its place, but some of the placement of these fights are a little bit weird.
Yeah, I did the prelim primer for this card as well. And yeah, some of these like lesser known names, like I would bet not a lot of people know who Movsar Evloev is, but with you, he is like a grade A top level prospect. Arman Sarukian and Nasrat Hakparas is like legit, maybe like my third
best fight on the card.
Third best fight on the card behind the top 2 that we just mentioned. Because Sarukian is like, both those guys are top level prospects, especially Sarukian with his like wrestling and kickboxing. But even then, yeah, I mean, Amanda Ribas, she's going to keep climbing the strawweight rankings. That Marina Rodriguez Amanda Ribas fight is really big for that division. But yeah, I don't entirely understand why Jessica Ai and Joanne Calderwood is so high on this card. I understand Otman Azaitar. He's a pretty decent prospect with big punching power, but this is a card that's for sure, like, I will not hesitate to watch all 12 fights. Like I'm gonna for sure tune in for the early prelims.
Yeah, it's honestly a really good card, top to bottom. Man, can't wait. Yeah. Cannot wait. I think it's normal time, right? Probably prelims at 6:30 or 7, main card kicking off at 10 p.m. Again, there's going to be fans. Like we mentioned earlier, the fans being in there was really nice to see again, man. And it would have been weird seeing Conor McGregor fight with 0 fans.
It's still going to be a little weird because you can tell it's not a full arena. Like on TV, you can tell it's only 2,000 people. It gives a kind of a unique feel to it, because it feels like you're just like at one of those like old UFC shows where they would do it at like the Hard Rock. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
With like probably just 2,000 fans. It'll be unique to watch McGregor fight with so few fans.
Before we get out of here, man, they did announce, I believe it's for UFC 260. They announced, I know one of them is official. I'm not sure the other one's official, but they've announced definitely official. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega for the title. We had mentioned that. And Stipe Miocic going to be taking on Francis Ngannou finally for that belt. That's going to be taking place March 27th, 2021. That's going to be a big one. Also on that card, Jimmy Crute versus Johnny Walker is a fun fight.
Yeah. I believe Miocic versus Ngannou is official at this point. So yeah, I'm happy to see that division finally moving forward.
Yeah, and you got to imagine the winner of that is going to be lined right up for a John Jones fight. So
I hope
huge implications on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the way John Jones is looking right now, man, there's no way he's going back down to
yeah, we didn't even talk about him like posting pics of him weighing 250 pounds.
Yeah, I've been saying it the whole time, man. Like look at the man's brothers.
Yeah.
Dude, his brothers are fucking huge. Like he's got a 6'4" frame. Like that guy is built for heavyweight.
I mean, I used to be a guy that when people would ask me, what do you think about John Jones at heavyweight? I thought he'll do well, but he's gonna struggle because he doesn't have the physicality to like wrestle with guys like Stipe, or Francis Ngannou, or even just like your average, like I used to think he would struggle to grapple with a guy like even like Marcin Tybura, like an average just big heavyweight. But if he's looking healthy at 250 pounds, I take back all that shit. I would love to see a fucking 250-pound John Jones like lat throwing Francis Ngannou or something.
Dude, he's still, and again, like John Jones is another guy. He's still only, what, 31, 32 years old. Like, he's even said, like, you haven't even seen my prime yet. And again, like, John Jones going up to heavyweight is going to be locked, loaded, with a lot of motivation. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. And I don't think he's commented on this fight announcement, but I'm also excited, as you know, to like for John Jones to be Twitter trash talking all around the Miocic versus Ngannou fight and like throwing shade at them. I love it.
Let me ask you this: let's say Stipe or Ngannou gets hurt. Do you think they do John Jones as the backup for that fight? You know, Ngannou as a interim title, or you know, obviously Stipe as the dude.
I think if there's enough time, I don't think they would do like a John Jones on 2 weeks notice or something.
Okay.
Because you don't want to squander like promoting that and having enough time to promote that. But yeah, I mean, like if next month news breaks that one of those guys is out, like why wouldn't you slot in John Jones, who should be fighting pretty soon? He hasn't fought in a minute.
Here's the thing too, for being a John Jones fan and wanting to see John Jones fight, it's going to be better for that division and for John Jones getting a fight sooner if Francis Ngannou wins. Because Stipe, he is never in any sort of rush to fight. He does things on his own terms, and he's earned that. But I think Ngannou, if he does win, is going to want to get that on and popping very soon.
Yeah, I mean, personally, the Ngannou fight interests me more, even though I know Miocic, there's more like legacy shit involved there. But just like, because Ngannou so embodies what is dangerous about John Jones moving up to heavyweight, that's why I'm excited about it. Because you know he's going to be facing these like monstrous punchers, and that's totally Ngannou to the max.
Yeah, man, can't freaking wait. MMA is back, and it's back in full swing, man. I haven't even looked at like the calendar really yet, but are we now in like one of those crazy like whirlwinds where we're gonna have fights all the way until like August?
That sounds right. Let me look at the UFC Tapology page usually like lists.
Dude, I'm on Wikipedia right now, and I'm already at the end of February, and it looks like
every single month.
It looks like literally like every single week we're
yeah. If Tapology is correct, the first break we're going all the way through March 27th.
Yeah. Yep.
And that would be the first after UFC 260. But who's to say they're not going to fill in something before that? I mean, it's not like they need to reserve venues in advance. Like they're all at the same fucking place.
I know. Crazy, man. Dude, that's all I got, man. I'm so pumped for this weekend. Can't wait.
Yeah, same. And we'll have a best bets episode on Friday.
That's very true.
People should tune in to make a little bit of money with us.
Yeah, hopefully we make you some money. As always, guys, thank you for listening. Please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen or view this podcast. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify and iTunes. Drop us a review if you could. We appreciate the support. Enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain.